My name is Tonya Khoury, and this is this week's Acumen Media Report. It's entitled, SA Has Spoken, Local Government Elections 2021. I didn't vote. Before you lynch me, I fell off a boat, okay? I've been diving for 20 years, and I was proud to say I have never fallen off a boat. I've fallen off a cruiser, got my hand chomped by an eel, rolled an ankle while getting onto a boat, but I've never fallen off one. I know what you're thinking. You landed on water. How bad can it be? Nope. I landed on sand. And it's not that bad. The boat beached. I don't know if you've been on a rubber duck, but when that boat beaches, you brace yourself for impact. I did. The thing is, the boat beached twice because of a gully formed by the lagoon. I had loosened my grip on the first beaching, and with that I tumbled off the boat and was covered in sand, head to toe, flat on my back. I'm acutely aware that I'm not getting younger, but man, did my body tell me exactly how old I was with that little backflip. Mom woke up the morning of voting with a sore throat and body pains. It's just flu, guys, calm down. I then called Nellie and said that it was likely we weren't going to go. Her response was, I don't know who to vote for anyway, so I'm not walking in this heat. I felt terrible. Me of all people should have been in that voting line. But lo and behold, brace yourself for the second lurch of the boat, I was in the majority. Now there's a plot twist. SA has spoken. Statistics poured in on the screens and across headlines. Low voter turnout. Understatement. Less than a third of us left our homes to exercise our democratic right. Many who did leave their homes did so just to spoil their vote. SA has spoken. Before we even break down LGE 2021, and I'm not sure I can because it's very confusing, I have to comment on the appalling coverage from our television news stations. I'm a media and statistics person after all, so these things interest me a great deal, and they should interest you too. I have photos of 3 different stations all carrying different statistics about the voting numbers at the polls and the number of votes counted. For example, ENCA said 7 million voters turned up, where other stations claimed it was 12 million. To date, I don't know where the news stations got their numbers because they never correlated on anything. Not on the turnout, not on the number of votes captured, not on the number of votes counted. Never. Not once. I watched all day and I have footage to prove it. What does it even mean? Poor journalism? Or I can't even go there. Kudos to the SABC though, because they woke up quite quickly and pulled down those strap lines. The other big 2 put timestamps on their straps, but even then they didn't correlate. I think most producers were so relieved when we no longer focused on the turnout number and switched to counting. It's easier to explain away discrepancies, see? Then entered the second beaching, the crawl. The IEC was counting a third of the expected voters and it took almost 4 days. My team could have counted it faster. I'm not even exaggerating. The straps paused on this line. 99% of the votes have been captured. Lots of room for leverage there. Counted versus captured. 99% isn't even a number. If it's a vague statistic when you don't know the baseline. So here we are. Only 1/3 of the registered voters pitch up. That means that 2 out of every 3 people that are actually registered didn't turn up to exercise their democratic right. In the last national election, almost 60% of us turned up. So that number was effectively halved. Add to that another 2% of people that queued up and then spoilt their ballot or voted for a smaller party that had no chance at all, and you have almost 70% of the voters who voted nota, not at all. I was angry at first, and then I saw the genius of democracy at work. With less votes, the pool of each municipality got smaller, and so did the ability for majority rule. The Daily Maverick called it the return to minority rule. How ironic, but also quite interesting and maybe a little exciting. Please don't lynch me. SA has spoken. I'm not over the voter turnout. Indulge me a little more, please. So less than 1/3 of the voters turn up. Does that mean that the majority decided they don't believe in the voting process, or they simply had no one to vote for? It has spoken by a 2/3 majority. A strong message that democracy as it's playing out in South Africa is not working, and we can't find an alternative on the ballot papers. I think that was an obvious message, right? Well, no, not at all. Not if you're the ANC. I'm sure you laughed with me when Jesse Duarte told us that the ANC are the winners, and when COVID was blamed for the low voter turnout. I'm sure you raged with me when the ANC blamed Eskom. Then they told us with arrogance that they are not desperate, but Gwede Mantashe's face said something very different. His hunched body and crossed arms with a blank stare away from the journalists said it all. Defeated, shocked, mortified, exhausted. The jig is up, my friend. SA has spoken. A bit like in an abusive relationship, eventually the bullied stands up and sometimes the victims just leave. Look at the state we're in now. Many are saying it's a massive tragedy, but for the statistician at me, it's been great fun digesting these stats. Here's some numbers for you. Over 30% of the municipalities are hung. There is no outright majority in a third of our municipalities. When we drill down to these municipalities, the big one, there's 8, 5 will require coalition to form a majority rule. It gets even more interesting when we look at each metro. Let's take the capital, Tshwane. The ANC has 35%, the DA 32%, Action SA 8.6%, and Freedom Front Plus edged to 8%. Let that stick in. Let that sink in. Assuming a majority is required of 51%, it means that the only way anyone can rule Tshwane is by the ANC and the DA partnering up. So the vote for the DA went to the ANC and the ANC vote went to the DA. Let that sink in. Beached. The same is true for Johannesburg. No single coalition will win the majority. The same is true for Ekurhuleni, Nelson Mandela Bay, and unless the ANC partners up with the EFF in eThekwini, the same is true there. That's not a happy story for any party. But if they do partner up, they fight for jobs. Wait for a second. That might just work. People fighting over each other to make sure they keep their jobs. SA has spoken. There were some real pearlers in the voting results. Robben Island, the EFF took 51%, imagine. In Nkandla, while the ANC was chased out of town as the IFP took over 80%. There's a message. They didn't take long to physically remove ANC members from municipal buildings, a bit like Zilla, who was frog-marched after voting because she was still electioneering to the queue of voters. There is a level of desperation driven by ego that is simply astonishing, isn't there? Talking about my favorite, Zilla took a month to canvass in Nelson Mandela Bay, and the result, well, pretty much Gwede's face. 9 seats lost and almost 10% less votes. The DA, Reed Helen, said that they'd achieved their lifetime ambition to bring the ANC below 50%. They don't give you a word on what happens next or how they will run their own hung municipalities, but at least they achieved their ambition, hey? Here's another belter. The Cape Exit Party got such a low vote they might as well have stayed and exited before they even started. That made me happy. Thank goodness, Cape Town. SA has spoken. SA has spoken. Oh, the DA still blamed Mayamani, by the way, years later, but let's talk about him for a minute. Was he the real winner on the day? The number of votes counted as other were as much as 10%. Is this our electoral reform? Talking about ex-DA members, Herman Mashaba spoke with such arrogance at gaining traction in Gauteng. It was an impressive performance, but Gauteng is not a country, Herman. All it shows us is that the voters found you in Gauteng. Please leave the high horse and come down to the masses. Julius had a presser. I call it the Julius presser, but Twitter prefers EFF presser. Social media had me in stitches when they said that the EFF are friend-zoned and they won on Twitter but on little else. Many said that Julius is the problem, but the CIC put them straight. It is his party. He is the leader of it. He said that. And like any other party, the leader takes the placard. But then he also went on to list that Buthelezi is the face of the IFP. SA has spoken. The one thing that made my skin crawl was the growing number of Freedom Front Plus numbers. In Tshwane alone, it was around 8%. Please no. Please, please no. So here we are, a new learning to the democratic process, coalition country. We were told by Herman he will not be the kingmaker to the ANC. It was an election promise, see? And then he said he will also not be going back to his old employer. We'll see, Herman. We are also told that the DA are in coalition talks with the ANC. How does that make you feel, DA voters? Ready to be run by the same party you didn't vote for? We are also told that Tony Leon is heavily involved in negotiations. Well, there you have it. Minority rule, and we roll back the clocks 20-odd years on the leadership of the DA. You must admit it's a fascinating but bumpy ride. In short, South Africa shook up democracy like a tidal wave and beached the boat. SA has spoken. I've run out of words, but there is other news. Mango won't fly. Galgut won the Booker Prize. Ace Makashule's warrant for arrest and postponement of court case was there. Capitec, a woman lost her shirt, literally. Bits of Denel blew up, and Mkhize is allegedly involved in Babita Decorant's assassination. It was Diwali. It rained, though, so the fireworks didn't quite make an impact. To be honest, we've had enough fireworks for 1 week. Have a restful weekend, and please stay on the boat. SA has spoken. I'm Tonya Khoury, and we've just scratched the surface of the week in media.